Hi, I'm Jerri Hyde, Youth Services Specialist at the Ames Public Library. Welcome to Well Read, a program about a little bit of this and a little bit of that at your Ames Public Library. Well, getting to school ready to read, grade level reading, graduating from high school, the Ames Reads group, the Raising Readers in Story County, Iowa State University, your public school system, and the Ames Public Library. What do these all have in common? Well, that's what we're here to talk to you about today. And I have a couple special guests. Diane and Dr. Bear are here to share with us some of the things that we are doing to help that summer slide that may occur in your child's life. So first, Diane, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here?
My name is Diana Schmidt, and I'm a retired school teacher. I taught 5th and 6th grade in Ames, at Crawford and Edwards. Before that, I taught in Des Moines, and I just have a passion to keep on promoting education in our community. I'm on the Raising Readers Board, and I'm on the Ames Reads Steering Committee.
And you do something too nationally with reading, testing different
Right.
schools and stuff.
Well, it's called the National Assessment of Educational Progress, and I assess students in Iowa. I actually supervise the assessment of students in Iowa. We just completed a testing segment where we're in 390 schools throughout Iowa.
That's really great. So you may say you're retired, but you're not really retired.
I just have a new life.
Yeah, you have a new life. Well, and also we have with us today Dr. Bear, and you're a professor at Iowa State University and related to the you do something with the Duffelmeyer Clinic. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd be glad to. I'm a co-director of the Duffelmeyer Clinic at the university, and we work with children who have reading difficulties. I was a classroom teacher as well, and then I've been working with kids who have reading difficulties, and I've been doing that for about 30 years. This is my first year at Iowa State, and I spent 27 years at University of Nevada in Reno. And I work with kids who have reading difficulties, and I do research in that area.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about your research that you've done?
Why, sure. I do research with preschoolers who are learning to read, and I also do research with high school students who are learning to read. At the upper level, we look at vocabulary development and reading difficulties and teaching students how to study. At the lower levels, we're more concerned with their ability to read words well, and at all levels, we're interested in children enjoying reading, having a good time reading.
And finding that book that matches their personality, but also their grade level reading or their ability to read that book.
We do look at grade level in reading, but we also look at their interest, and we don't want to keep children from reading books of interest. So in the schools, parents will see the leveled readers. And maybe you have a great collection here, and I want to encourage parents and kids to come in and look at the leveled books. And these are leveled for their developmental levels.
And so, when you have a leveled book like that, it's a book that we want to match the interest, but also the ability, and then have that interaction with an adult of some sort, whether it's a parent or a teacher or a tutor in our case this summer, so they can help that child read and understand their fluency.
That's right. We want to teach families how to sit together and read. And if the book is at the child's instructional level, you can just talk about the book, and maybe we'll take turns reading a page back and forth. I can tell you, though, if the child hesitates for more than 3 seconds, go ahead and tell your child the word.
Yeah, that makes more sense than
keep
just
the story going. That's right. That's right.
Kind of empowers them to be able to see that word as a whole and know what it is without associating it with a struggle of, oh, let's see, I thought about that word and sounded that out, but it didn't sound right.
Sometimes you spend so much time sounding it out that you forget what the book is about.
Yeah, that's true.
So we have the 3-second rule. And we do work on phonics at a different time.
All right. So those are things that that you've been doing your research and sharing that. And I know we have some research too that talks about that summer slide, that from the school end to the school beginning, that there's some loss for students and for readers. Diane, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Research indicates that students, especially low-income students who are not reading during the summer, do slide back in their learning up to 2 to 3 months. But in talking to some of the local Ames teachers, I found that it actually takes until January for some of the students to get back to where they were at the end of that previous year.
So all that first 6 months basically of school, all they're doing is reviewing and catching up from what they lost over the summer.
Right.
And some of that summer loss is due to I know it's due to lack of reading and lack of engagement in that book. Are there other things that we could suggest to our parents that sometimes we talk about what we all should do, but there are some things we shouldn't do as well.
Well, you shouldn't ignore reading.
That's true. I agree with that.
It's sort of like riding a horse. You have to spend time in the saddle, and that's what we want the children to do as well. Being around books, having books in the home, regular trips to the library to get 5 or 6 books, taking them home and coming back and forth. Just having books around to look at and to look through, and maybe getting someone to read a book to me and me having the opportunity to read. So the more time they can spend reading during the summer, the better.
And that reading is not, I talk like with my preschoolers and the beginner readers in the lower elementary, it's not necessarily just reading a book, it's also reading the back of a cereal box and having that conversation about what that is, or talking about the pictures that are in the book, and having that parent or the older brother and sister kind of do a social type of engagement.
That's a great point. I have a colleague at the university who studies hypertext and how people interact with different forms of text on the screen, on the iPhone, on your iPod, and then in books. And so you hit it on the nail on the head, where you want to talk about the books and talk about what you're reading on screen and what you're looking at and what you're thinking. And so one of the things that Dee works on, and all of our tutoring programs work on, is finding interesting topics to study. Because if you're interested in something, you're more likely to read about it. If you're interested in something, you'll ask somebody to tell you more, and you'll do those internet searches. So talking to your child about what's interesting, finding supporting reading materials is essential.
That print motivation really gets that child ready to go, and opening that book up and it being excited. I see you have a couple books in your hand here.
I can't help but hold books,
That kind of interests me because they really don't have anything to do with each other, but yet they kind of do.
Well, I didn't choose them. That they do. I guess they're about animals, aren't they?
Animals and animals that live in the water.
That's right. And here's a nonfiction book on sea lions in the Navy. And so a lot of people will like to learn about sea lions. It's a fact of life, isn't it? Lyle Lyle Crocodile is a fact of our imaginations, let's say. And so what a wonderful book, and just the rhythm of the language is so wonderful. And so I'm an older brother. I can read to my younger siblings. I'm a parent. I might have a child who's interested in sea lions. And so we need all types of books around, but having books in the home, talking about books is essential. And that's what we do in our tutoring programs too.
Yeah, I think it's time for us to we've been talking about what we can do in our home, but we also, that old adage, it takes a village to raise a family or raise a child, and that's kind of some of the things that we're doing here in Ames this summer. The library has a summer library program that kind of enhances some of the things, but we have some specific programs like our book buddy programs. Right. And Diane, can you explain a little bit about that? I see you have little bears here that.
Well, these are our book buddies. And what we want to do is encourage students to enjoy reading and writing, as well as maintain and increase their reading skills during the summer. And so one way we're doing that is offering free tutoring for students in kindergarten through 3rd grade who might be a little below proficiency level. So we have tutors that Dr. Bear has graciously trained, and we have teachers that are writing lesson plans for the tutors. And we'll be located in several locations throughout Ames to make it convenient for people.
And I think that's a very important fact, that it's not where, well, they'll have to go to the locations that we have. We haven't spread it, we haven't concentrated in one area. It's not just at Iowa State, it's not just here
Right.
in the library, which there isn't any space right now to do that, but hopefully in the future. But it's not in one particular space. So people around Ames and children around Ames can find that closest spot to have
That's
that
exactly
happen.
right. So if parents are interested in enrolling their children, they could email me at di1512@hotmail.com, and I would certainly be glad to see if we can set them up in our program.
Yeah, and we have this flyer, and I know we
Right.
had a deadline, but we're still accepting.
Yes.
So we have this at the library where you can email and or talk about it. And we've had some inquiries here as well, talking about what kind of where they can go and who they can contact and what times those are. So can you kind of share those times?
We are being very flexible with the timing. We have morning times, afternoon times, and we want to have some early evening times also, because we're finding that a lot of parents are working and they feel that they can't get their child to tutoring until right after work. So we want to really be accommodating with those schedules. And we want to make sure that kids have a chance to enjoy their summer and go to the aquatic center in the afternoon too. So these are 40-minute sessions.
And
twice a week.
What kind of happens in that 40-minute sessions? I know, Dr. Bear, you've been training us all on being good tutors. So tell us
right.
about what kind of things that we should do as a tutor.
Well, we want to have a good time in our tutoring. And so we want to make sure that what the children are reading and writing about, they're interesting topics, but they're also on their developmental levels. And so we're serving 50 kids at the Duffelmeyer this summer, and then we're helping to train, and we have some wonderful tutors. And so the tutors we're exporting what we do at the Duffelmeyer to the community. And so the tutors are trained in some basic techniques. We call it RWWT, RRWWT. Read to. We want to read to our children, read with, and so that's sitting together using the leveled books and reading with our children. As a tutor, I'll read with a student. We'll do that for most of the time. Read to, read with, we'll do a little bit of writing with the students, and then we do some word study. Now, word study is the phonics and the spelling and the vocabulary. So as we read, we talk about the words, but we also do word sorts and word study activities. We play word study games. And then the last thing that we do is we do plenty of talking with our students. We want them to talk about what they're reading. We want to talk about what our ideas are about sea lions, for example. So all the tutors are trained in read to, read with, write with, and word study and talking with our students.
And now, I know what a word sort is, but maybe our listeners don't. Can you kind of explain some of those reading type of games that we play?
Why, sure. Any board game, any card game can be a word study game. So even at home, I could have some words or pictures of different sounds. So I might sort or have words or pictures that we sort by beginning sounds, like the ball and baby compared to monkey and money and monster. And these are pictures that the children will sort into categories by beginning sound. But we also work up to long vowels, and so we might compare the way the words are spelled, different long vowel spellings. And the children have active ways of sorting the words, but we also play word study games like concentration and go fish, and that's a part of our tutoring. And so we believe that all children can learn to read well, nearly all children. And so if we provide some support along the way, more time in the saddle, learning how to read, that the children will make real progress.
And I know the one child that I was tutoring earlier this spring. She loved the little racing game that we had, with the word sort, and yeah, she would pull that out and get very excited about doing it, and that was as much fun as us reading together. She loved poetry too, so it's not necessarily just a full-blown story kind of book. It can be poetry and bits and pieces of captions and that type of things, just to keep that interest level up and to get them and keep them enthused. So it empowers them to have that confidence to be able to read longer and down the road. So
that's right. The more time they can spend with their eyes on the page, the better.
So Diane, tell us again about who they can contact and that email that you have. So if you're interested in your child becoming a book buddy and going out into one of our places that we have our tutors, how can they sign up?
Well, they can contact me. It's Diana Schmidt, but my email is di1512@hotmail.com.
All right, and so that we've talked about our students coming, or our children coming and being empowered. Tell us though about who some of our tutors are, because I'm real excited. I know the answer, but I want you guys to tell about how exciting it is that some of our younger people are in our community are wanting to do this as well.
Right. Well, anyone that loves reading and wants to spread that enthusiasm to young people would qualify to be a tutor as long as they've gone through Dr. Bear's training. And we have some high school students, we have college students, we have retired people, we have just a whole range of ages that want to get involved. And I think that's the beauty, to show how our community can come together and have collective impact for everyone.
And that kind of surmises everything I was going to say in my conclusion, so I'm not sure what more I can say, is that it truly does take a village to raise our children and have them ready to read at kindergarten, or ready to learn to read at kindergarten, and that grade level reading and graduating from high school. It's just not the school system's responsibility, it's our parents, and it's us as a community member, and many of us are volunteering to make that happen and make Ames truly a community of readers. So if you're interested in helping that out, you sure can contact me or contact Raising Readers or Diane. She gave you her email. We'll put you in the right place at the right time so we can tutor our children and empower our families and our children to be great readers. Until next time, thank you for viewing our show.